Alright guys, in this video we're going to be having a look at 5 classic first home buyer mistakes. And before we go into this, I'll give credit to Scott and the Barefoot Investor here. Great book, and these are sourced from there. So I'm going to add a little bit of spice, my little personal style on top of these, but they're a great 5 first home buyer mistakes. Now, number 1 is waiting for a crash. So we all know about the clickbait articles and the media beat-ups that say there's an impending crash coming, property prices are going to fall by 40%, 60%. You get commentators that are especially bearish about it. But as we've seen, there are cycles within the Australian property market. They do go up and down, but we do have a very high home ownership rate, and there's still an Australian dream of owning your own place. Now, even though property is expensive, there is a pretty stable property sector, and since the property records began back in the 1800s, property prices have risen pretty relentlessly over the decades. So if you're looking at something as a 20 or 30 year investment, property is a pretty good stable investment. So waiting for that property crash to come could keep you on the sidelines. Plus, a property crash is not something you can control. You can control your savings, you can control your income, but you can't control the economy, you can't control the property market, you can't control the rental market, where you're going to rent and how much that costs. But what you probably are feeling is you have a need to buy a place of your own, somewhere for you to call your own. So that is something that you can control, and the market may be what it is, but if you have that long-term view, you probably want to get into the market. It's going to enable you to do 2 things, both of which are emphasized in this book as well. One is your principal place of residence, that is your own home, is a tax-free asset. So if you bought it for 100 grand today, and in the future you sell it for 400 grand, you keep the profit tax-free. The ATO allows you to do that. The second key thing is it's forced savings. So savings is a habit that we all want to get into, but sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes your savings rate goes up and down depending on what expenses you need to cover. So a mortgage has to stay pretty static over 30 years. It's like a forced savings plan. So those 2 things working together, the tax-free nature of the principal place of residence and the forced savings effect, means that you're inevitably going to build wealth simply by having a property. And that's why you shouldn't be holding out for this mythical crash to come. Number 2 is stretching too far. So if you're creating your stress on yourself and on your family, and by implication on any kids you might have, that's not the way to go. You don't want to be putting yourself in high levels of debt, which are going to create a great deal of financial stress, leading to all other sorts of problems. So buy something that you can afford today based on your current levels of income, and being able to obtain some of the more comfortable aspects of life. So don't overstretch, and through a process of looking at your financials, we'll be able to come to an appropriate level of calculation which says, look, here's the sweet spot for your purchase, given your deposit and given your income. You can afford something like this without stretching too far. Number 3 is investing first. Increasingly, this is quite a popular option, and I would be quite flexible around this rule and this mistake, because if you do need to invest first, that's fine. But many couples invest first but then don't get around to actually buying their first place, or there's so many sunk costs of deposits and so forth that have gone into the investment property that they're finding it hard to actually do another deposit to get onto their second property. But it is a mistake. But if you have a good enough income and can build up your savings again to buy your own home, then investing first could actually work for you. Number 4 is renting but not saving. So you could be renting in a trendy area and going out and having a great lifestyle, and by implication it's very tempting to not save because you're enjoying your younger years, you don't have as many commitments perhaps, and so therefore the temptations are there. So you could be doing all this partying, but look, it's not really getting you anywhere. Number 5, considering other options. So you could be in this situation here where you're renting, you've got really good lifestyle, but you want this goal of your own place. So how can you really create that surplus in your life so that you can save it, and within 1 to 2 years you actually start to get on the household property ladder. So there could be some moving parts that you need to have a look at. I've noted a few here. One of them is, how can you earn extra money? Is there a promotion at work that you can go for? Are there freelance gigs that you can use your skills for to give you an extra income boost that you can put towards your deposit? Another is using some low deposit strategies, which I go into in another video, but these are using things like a parental guarantee in place of an equity deposit, which helps you get onto the property ladder sooner. And there are various other power boosters to give you some low deposit strategy ideas which can help you get into your own home sooner, especially if you've got a good income. Another item here is save one income. If you and your partner can survive on one income and then completely save that other income, that's a really nice clean split at which you can then get ahead on and really have a clear line of sight to actually building up a savings base really quickly. So see if you can save one income and where that would get you. And lastly, being flexible on area. This could be not only the area that you're looking to buy in, which the Barefoot Investor recommends. He was flexible on the area that he bought in so that he wouldn't cause himself some stretching stress. But also maybe be flexible on the area that you rent in. So for a period of 20 months, you may go and rent in a cheaper area, paying $300 a week instead of $600 a week. And that'll enable you to speed up your savings. Maybe you're saving another income too and generating extra dollars of income. So when you stack up these, you could actually have a bit of an accelerated effect of actually building up your deposit quite quickly and then using a couple of low deposit strategies to actually get on the property ladder sooner. So there's 5 classic mistakes that a first home buyer might make. Credit again to Barefoot Investor, great book, and I highly recommend that you have a look at it. That's my take on them, and hopefully that helps you on your first home buying journey.